Katrina and floods and fires that have displaced so many people in these past years. We daily face overwhelming amounts of information and impossible demands on our attention and time. And some of us bear the added burden of mental illness, psychological vulnerability, the effects of abuse, or depression as a consequence of a situation we can't control, or the side effect of medication we're taking. This presentation addresses those who are suffering from depressive illness, disillusionment, dark moods, and emotional vulnerability from the perspective of faith, from the treasures of our spirituality that can help us find meaning even in these dark times. I am not a psychologist, and I'm not a theologian. My claim to credibility in offering you this presentation is that I have been seriously depressed and have spent a lot of time struggling with God through the years with my depression. Why? Why me? That question that comes up when all of us face evil in our own lives. I know depression from the inside. I know the spiritual anguish it brings with it. I know the loneliness, the fear of losing it, the isolation, and I believe that one truly understands depression not by studying it or reading it, but by living with it. In June of 1985, I went into St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Brighton, Massachusetts for a simple foot operation. I went into the surgery a healthy, strong, and ambitious young woman of 21, and I came out of the recovery unit with something terribly wrong. 4 days later, I was told that I had had a stroke. I was paralyzed on my right side. I couldn't stand up. I had no strength. I had lost much of my memory. I couldn't use even the most basic vocabulary. 2 weeks and many tests later, I began a long 18-year journey of rehabilitation. Though I recovered much of my strength and coordination in those first 2 years, I never quite recovered my emotional stability. I quickly found myself in a manic depressive cycle that became increasingly more pronounced. Violent mood swings sent me crashing between effervescent periods of activity and incredible high to the black nights of paralyzing depression. And it was only 12 years after my stroke that I received an accurate diagnosis of temporal lobe epilepsy, a bipolar organic disorder which brought about another cycle of depression as I began to live with a new label. Depression spares no one. Christians become depressed, priests, men and women religious suffer from depression, teens in the flower of youthful dreams become depressed, even children can become depressed. It might seem that people who have faith or a future have no reason to be depressed. They should be able to pray about it, dream about it, will themselves out of it. It's hard to reconcile what many still call a moral deficiency with faith in the power of God. But depression is really just another expression of our human vulnerability. We are so fragile. Ironically, however, this empty darkness is often the source of immense creativity, the black night that gently announces the advent of the divine. Someone said to me, depression was a swirling black hole that sucked me in until I was in well over my head. The energy that I needed to fight against it was just so immense, and I just let it take over. I was just so tired. I had no way of dealing with it. I could relate when I heard these words. Though my experience of depression had been different, and though each person's symptoms of depression and struggle to survive are unique, it's not difficult to resonate with the story of inner sorrow that's created by depression when we hear those stories. One of the hardest things is taking that first step toward surviving depression, taking that first step of learning about depression, to stop running, to cease the inner chatter by which we try to convince ourselves we are fine, and face the possibility, I may be depressed. So here, I want to help you make that first step. I want to lay out simply what depression is, its symptoms and characteristics, and the dynamic it creates in our lives. The hardest step then will be behind us. The rest of the